Next action, for discussion and action on proposed sale of property on Wyatt Court.
Butch Smith is requested to purchase approximately 9 acres on White Court. He's given all of us a letter with the specifics in it, and Mr. Smith is here. I think, do you want to come up and answer some questions for these guys? Or?
Actually, I'd like to correct it.
Right, okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Ray Evans on behalf of Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith has proposed to the city to purchase about 9 acres of city property on Wyatt Court adjacent to his existing property where he has a 50,000 square foot building. And what he proposes to do is to, on his own, to build a 50,000 square foot speculative building on the property. He would build it in such a way and at such a finished floor elevation that he would align the new building with his existing building. So you would have a freestanding 50,000 square foot building when he's finished, but it would have the ability to connect to the existing building and create, in essence, a 150,000 square foot building if the opportunity availed itself. Very unusual situation as I work the state in economic development. The vast majority of speculative industrial buildings are publicly funded and publicly owned. It's a rather rare situation where a private individual proposes to build a speculative industrial building for a community. And if you talk with their friends at TVA Economic Development, the State Economic Development, they'll tell you that if you don't have the proper building and the proper size, the proper ceiling heights in your inventory, that you're going to miss a lot of opportunity as they see industrial prospects. In addition to aligning the building in its finished floor elevation, Mr. Smith would propose some ceiling heights at the eaves of some 34 feet, which is gives us a lot of flexibility as to the type of industry that might locate there. The other good thing about having a speculative building is that TVA has a special website for just such buildings that they tout to site selection consultants that work for the industrial prospects. And there's only probably, give or take, 24 buildings in the whole TVA region that qualify for that program. This building would in fact qualify for that program as well. So he's asked council in the letter that you've received for a couple of things, and one would be that the council take the proceeds of the sale of the property and put it in an escrow fund for 3 years. That if he is successful in recruiting an industry with the city's help, with the county's help, with the chamber's help, TVA and the state, that would create 45 jobs, whatever number of jobs are created by that over a 3-year period, that the city would agree to rebate to him the portion of the purchase price that equates to $5,000 per job created. So maximum amount again would be the purchase price, and that would equate to somewhere either give or take 45 new jobs. In addition to that, he would ask that the city and then subsequently the county through the Industrial Development Board consider a payment in lieu of taxes plan similar to the one that was recently approved for Co-Links in their new expansion. So possibly something over 10 years with sort of a declining amount of property tax abatement scenario. Be happy to entertain any questions that you might have that I can answer or that Mr. Smith might answer for.
I have 2 questions. Have the floor.
Yes, sir.
The normal reimbursement per employee is what the city has went by since I've been here. I don't have any question about that. The tax abatement, I don't have any question about that. That's normal. Any incentives typically offered to any potential client may be offered. Okay, I do have a question about that. I thought we just covered the 2 points. What other incentives are there?
I think that sentence is on there, Mr. Susan, just in case that we forgot one. We think that those two that we've outlined are the two that are normally customary, but if there are any other out there, we would certainly want to avail ourselves of that.
And you want us to help with the prep site, with the soil?
Good point. I did forget one thing there. In order to create the flexibility that Mr. Smith is looking forward to bring the city's site up to the same elevation at his current site, it's going to have some fair amount of fill material placed in there, engineered fill material. So there will be remnant pieces of the city's property. There's a sort of, I would call it a construction debris waste site that's behind the property. And then there's also some remnant areas around the property that might be available for borrow area. And so what we would ask in that scenario is to allow us to work with the city manager and the city engineer in order to be able to utilize some of that city property for borrow material that would not otherwise be of use to the city in order to bring the site up to the same elevations as the adjacent site.
I believe, in my opinion, that the concept of this is good. However, this was laid on the council an hour before the meeting. I would ask the council to table this and have the lawyer and the engineers, the city lawyer and the city engineers brief us on this further. So I ask that I make a motion to table this till next month where we can have a workshop on this.
Do I hear a second on that? I think from discussions that I've had, and I'm like you, I got this, we walked in the door all the time, that time is of an essence here. And I'm wondering if we could have a friendly amendment to that motion to make it, since we're talking capital outlay here, if we could not include this in our budget, our next budget meeting, special call budget meeting.
I don't have a problem with that. I just don't have to put in the special call budget meeting.
I don't either. I think it's gonna be before our next monthly meeting.
Like I say, I have a couple of questions for the lawyers to review this and for Tim to review this, and I don't have any problems with the concept of this.
Yes, sir.
May I ask one question?
Yes.
What capital outlay would you have?
Well, we've got,
We're not asking you for any money. I'm going to ask the city engineer, as our meeting today, that there's a site over there that is useless property that the city owns, that will never be used for anything, that might have some quality fill in it that we can use to make this pad. Trucking in the dirt to make the pad is $12 a yard. If we get it on site, it's $5 a yard. The cost of the pad could be $300,000, or it could be $150,000.
Wow.
If we find it on site. So we're not asking the city for anything except useless property and that, what do you call that, Tim, the pile down there that's used, sprawl. I believe you said today that good luck to people when they try it out. We're asking for it.
I'm not opposed to that, but I still want to have feedback from the engineer. I want to be sure that we're not going to get into another soccer field, environmental drainage issues, or anything of that nature.
Can I comment, Mayor?
Sure.
yes,
There is a 30-day waiting period that we have to advertise any property that we sell. And if the council would go ahead and approve that advertising, whatever you do tonight as far as postponing it to the next meeting, it would not hold this project up because nothing could actually occur as far as the transfer to the end of that 30-day period. You know, we can talk over the logistics of the deal at the next budget meeting, like you said, and we're still not holding up anything as long as that 30-day advertisement period has started.
And there's no environmental issues, though.
the counselor,
I move to approve, Mayor.
I have a motion to approve, do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. I have a question for the attorney. have you seen our, this proposal?
I didn't see it today. I got it when the council got it.
If this motion is approved, from what you see, what do you think about this?
Well, of course, this is a policy decision of the council.
Yes.
Whichever way you all go, I'll be happy to draft whatever contracts with language that's needed, but other than that, that's a policy decision that you all have to make.
If, I have a question.
Yes.
If we approve this, is this a binding contract?
If you enter into a resolution which says that you intend to sell the property, and it's just, I'm not sure what Councilman Watt's motion was just to approve this offer, then we're accepting the offer. We'll need to still draft some documents, and so I would request that you amend the motion to allow me to draft those contracts, if that'd be okay.
Yes.
I don't see how this can't be a win-win situation for the community. We don't have any capital outlay on it. We're letting them use some borrowed material from some unusable, perhaps some unusable property. Even if it is approved, we still have to go through the normal logistics and the normal permitting process, and we have to go jump through all the hoops to make it happen. So I just see it as a win-win for the community.
Yeah, so
Yes, sir.
Another thing, there's not been a new building built here in our community since, I think, 2007, I believe, last one, except certainly for Colin's, and I'm talking about in the 50,000 foot range. You currently don't have one in inventory for the Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to say at this point that if it's not voted on unanimously by the council and Brad 100% for it, and our county 100% for it, I won't do it.
Your question, your concern to asking the council member to a friendly amendment was what? Approve it per legal.
We'll need to put it into writing, into contract form, and if you would authorize me to do that, I can get that taken care of for working with Mr. Smith, whoever his representative is, to help draft those contracts. Then those would have to come back for final approval. If you pass this today, we can start the advertising requirement, as Tim talked about, and we can come back for final approval of an actual contract that lays out all the terms.
So basically, his motion pending legal terminology of the contract. Is that correct?
Well, if you pass the motion, you'll be agreeing to do it. All that'll be left is drafting the contracts and then signing.
So he doesn't need to make a motion?
He just needs to authorize me to do those contracts. The
No.
council knows.
I have one part that I want included in this, and that part being the environmental responsibility. We went through this with the soccer field some time afterwards. We don't need to go through this again, and there may not be any environmental issue, but I think that needs to be part of the contract.
Is that acceptable?
Oh, sure. We'll get a text one on it immediately, and that's no problem.
Yes. Yes, Brad?
Can I comment?
Yes.
We desperately need buildings to market. And this is pending all the litigation and permitting, et cetera, whatever. We do not have a building to put in front of people that are looking for buildings. So I commend Mr. Smith for this action, and I hope more people step forward. And this is really unique. We're talking about a private person that wants to make a commitment to the community, and I'm in full support of it. If I could just talk him into a bigger building. Well, at this point, I'll take 50,000 and be darn glad of it. My support is complete.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me mention one thing regarding environmental, and one of the things that I would applaud the city engineer for is that as he was considering the 9 acres that the city might offer to sell, he looked at some streams adjacent to the property and actually created the property line in such a way to make sure that those streams would be buffered in accordance to TDEC's requirements, and certainly Mr. Smith intends to do everything that the city stormwater ordinance and TDEC requires as far as environmental issues.
Yes, sir.
It's not to say anything else, but during this whole process with City Manager Rutherford and Tim Bailey, it was all it worked very well. Tim and your engineering department has done an outstanding job. You've got an outstanding engineering department.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I got a question for Tim, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Tim's not leaving about 20 acres of that property.
I think we have about 28, so that's gonna cut us back down to about 21.
Yeah.
There's several acres there that's not usable, such that Mr. Smith talked about removing some of the material there for field for this side.
And some of that's where the proposed walking trail hopefully eventually will be.
Not the area that he's working in.
Right.
The area for the walking trail is closer to the river.
On that 20
Same
acres.
property, yes.
Yes.
Right.
Same property. Any other questions? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Susan?
Aye.
Councilmember White? Mayor Pro Tem Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Curley.
Aye.
Mayor Mayberry?
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the